Okay, there's some chickens on the property that I'm visiting, and there's also a bunny right there. One thing I noticed about chickens in the country, especially if they're in clean quarters, they are a lot more colorful. Their feathers are a lot more colorful and just vibrant in general, as opposed to just other conditions that I've seen chickens unfortunately living in. And these are goats. They're kind of like freaking out, but yeah, it's feeding time, and so these are definitely healthier animals. Okay.
Okay, so this is a compost pile that's been we've been working on for I don't know, 6 months or so. Last fall we started it. It's got all the manures, the horse, the goats, the chickens, the rabbit, even all the bedding, all that stuff goes in there, plus all the scraps from extra, vegetables from the garden, extra greens, anything that gets pulled out in the fall. It all goes in there, and so it's been breaking down, and that's what's going to go into the wood chips. So there's a great video everyone should check out who wants to grow this type of garden. Go Back to Eden, and you go to their website, backtoedenfilm.com, and you can watch the video. It's amazing. So we started doing this 3 years ago, and it's so much easier to grow food. This new batch of wood chips here, this was just spread out this year, so
Okay.
this won't be broken down fully for a few years. The dark ones here are 30 years old that we had brought in by a local farmer. And so these are ideal for growing right now. We've been growing here for 2 years. It looks dry on top, but when you dig down, I mean, look at this. This is where it's at. And then the topsoil layer is right there. So it's about 4 inches deep. And that never dries out. So you use less water, and the roots go crazy. The roots spread out about 5 feet in diameter on our tomatoes especially. Tomatoes have huge root systems. Everything loves this. The water that flows in from the canals, there's no power needed. So it all slopes down into these little bathtubs.
And a lot of people are dependent on power, especially in farming.
Sure, but there's no power here. It's all gravity. Same thing here. This is its own little bathtub. It's got a berm here that keeps it separate from the rest of the garden. So this gets flooded out in the peak of summer.
Okay, so it goes all the way down there
to the pasture. Yeah. So this pipe comes in from the ditch and waters the garden, and then ultimately ends up in the pasture, which is the low spot. So that's the idea. The gravity pulls it all the way down to the pasture for the animals, but first it goes through our garden. The river that flows by here, it provides plenty of water in the growing season. So that this whole valley is based on this system.
So the water's been released right here. And now the ditch on the other side is being filled up. And here it is. We're about another block away. The water's working itself down.
Ditch down there. Actually, look at right here. That tank is stopping all the junk. For the most part.
This is where we should have our rake. Can you run down, Dylan, please, and get a rake? Right. It's just something like a fork, even pitchfork.
And what do you hide in here?
This is showing. Yeah. So clean out at the turn point.
And we're another block away.
Now this is not as full as it can get. That's when I will start that.
Okay, he's opening up the pipes. It's been about an hour, hour and a half since this process started. And now the water's going to come through here. Apples, pears, apricots, peaches, and plums. All in this young orchard plot right here. Alright, so the water is incrementally starting to fill up this area that he's released from this irrigation system that he set up, and it doesn't require power. And over the course of a few hours, as I've been told, this whole thing will fill up. And there's basically a network to releasing different sections of it and letting it basically over time fill up with water. And we'll be looking at the results of that in a few hours. Actually, these goats are living better than some people. They've got a little mound up there. Much nicer than Lorhurst Park in Portland. And they also have their own tree. That's right, I've got a tree right there. So these are not being raised for meat. I don't even know if they're actually mostly manure for the garden. That's it. They've done a lot of work towards building up their manure for a massive garden they're building. And the goats played a big part in the manure. Now they have a horse. A lot friendlier than the goats that I visited in Boring, Oregon. It's because they're at a higher altitude. They like it up here. Be careful. You're blessed too. And now you got all this water here. That's all the way at least up to those trees over there. That's their greenhouse. Being in this really got me thinking maybe I should try to get a greenhouse built first when I get out to Colorado and get some land, and then from there expand.
A little brown trailer? That's the same thing you had. That's a Harbor Freight frame. Just like
Oh, really?
4x8. Yeah, check it out.
And this is all lumber that you came across as well?
Bartered with a friend.
Okay. Okay. Posts. A lot of good posts. Posts of different kinds, different shapes. A lot of options. Taking another look at this wood pile I came across. People might have different ideas for things they would do. This is, when you come across this stuff for roofing, then they got the square-shaped wooden options. Things like this. Pretty close. Good stack, already cut. Looks like it's 24 inches there, 36 inches there. And then you got the 2x4s, longer. Looks like some 2x8s. Yeah, those Harbor Freight trailers, they get around, don't they?
Here it is, man. It's funny, when you put that video out and I knew we had this, I thought, that's his.
Oh, wow.
That's your space right there.
Now, this is not the 1720 pound capacity, I can tell right away. This has a bar here.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a reinforcement bar on the other.
Okay, it says right here actually, 1170.
1170. So that's good. So you could, you know what? I wonder what would make a good tent-like, but better than a tent, but lightweight shelter for on the go. I don't know, it's pretty ghetto. Anyways,
Ghetto, man.
it was a nice thought for the apocalypse.
Fallen branches, the dump.
You know what? This one's halfway there.